going to do a crossover today with Locked on Sunbelt. This is going to be one of my more entertaining podcasts of the year. How does it work with NIL, recruiting, the transfer portal, all that and more on this crossover Locked on Sunbelt and Locked on the Portal.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into another Portal edition, but this time it's going to be a little bit more fun than normal because we're going to do some Sunbelt, some Fun Belt, if you will. Locked on the Portal and Locked on Sunbelt, having some fun talking about the portal, recruiting, and all the craziness of college football, the playoff, all of it wrapped up in one. And thank you very much for making this your first listen or Locked on Sunbelt, wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere else you get your pods. So please like and subscribe. And let's not waste any time. Let's get the guy on that probably knows as much about what's going on with the Sun Belt and really just the G5 in general, Mr. Dave Schultz. Dave, how you doing today, sir?
Brian, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, appreciate it. First off, there is nothing that I like better, especially early in a football season, than watching like a Wednesday or Thursday game. Southern Miss playing, like we were just talking off air about Mississippi State. They're traveling to Southern Miss this year. Yeah. That is so dangerous, brother. Those kinds of games are a blast. I love that stuff.
Well, first of all, it's going to be at 11 a.m. in August. So it'll be a blast one way or another. So hydrate before you go. Second thing is I'm going to give a lot of credit to Jeff Lebby because there's a bunch of Power 5 schools, Power 4 schools, whatever you want to call them, that are backing out of those games, okay?
That's true.
Mississippi State won 2 ball games last year, and I believe one of them was against an FBS team. So he's on the, his seat is warm to begin with, and I'm sure Mississippi State's going to be better. And part of the reason is one of the players that transferred in from South Alabama, Fluff Bothwell. But you want to get on the hot seat real fast, go to Southern Miss and lose to the Golden Eagles. I mean, there's not going to be a more – this is crazy, Brian. These two teams combined to win 3 ball games last year. Southern Miss won 1. That was it. And – Mississippi State won 2. But Charles Huff came from Marshall to Southern Miss, brought half his championship club with him, including his quarterback, Braxton, who won, helped them win the Sun Belt Championship for the Thundering Herd. So this is not exactly the returning squad who went 1-11 last year for the Fighting Will Hall. So it's going to be a great ball game. I wouldn't be shocked if Southern Miss pulls off. I don't think it's going to be a major upset by any stretch of imagination. I think Mississippi State fans may think that, but I'm going to give Jeff Lebby some credit for playing this football game. It's great for the state of Mississippi, and it could be a lot of fun for Southern Miss if they pull off this, what some people were going to say, a shocking victory.
Yeah, Marshall was pretty good. They've had a good roster for a few years. I mean, they beat Notre Dame a few years ago, and they've always had more talent than most people know. They get a lot of transfers down, and they've had some good coaches. And the guy they just hired from NC State, he was a really good defensive coordinator from there. That's a good program. So the priority today, though, I want people, and myself included, this is educational for me. It's usually the other way around. Like I do Locked on Seminoles, and I do Locked on the Portal. Recruiting is my thing, transfer portal and all that. But it's P4 that I really focus on. Dave is an expert in anything, baseball, basketball, football, with the Sun Belt, and he's like the sports in general in college. But how does NIL work, in your opinion, just like a broad swath at the G5 level? Like, I know it's super complex and that's a hard question, but for the novice fan, Dave, what is NIL like at, say, Southern Miss or Coastal, something like that?
Well, I mean, it's mostly outgoing, right? It's mostly,
Right.
It's mostly Mississippi State taking South Alabama's running back, Fluff Bothwell, right? It's
Right.
Gio Lopez actually staying with South Alabama, announcing he was doing so, probably going to get a little bit of money. Didn't play in the bowl game. He was banged up a little bit, and announcing he was staying because he probably got a little bit of cash, whether it was, high 5 figures, low 6 figures. And then after spring practice, we got a guy named Bill Belichick at Carolina says, hey, Gio, how would you like to come play for me? And I'm going to give you 2 years, $4 million. All right, well, there's not a whole lot of programs in America can compete with that. So I don't think anybody was all that shocked that he left, or I wasn't even all that disappointed. And I'm a Patriots fan. Gio, go get your cash and go play for Bill. All right. That's the way it kind of goes. You got a lot of private NIL money coming in. We're all trying to figure out on how the House settlement is going to work, right? There's no way that the Cajuns or Southern Miss or ULM has $20 million to spend on players, right? You have some, does Iowa State? I'm not sure Iowa State has $20 million to pay their players, right? So I don't think the Sun Belt or G5 has to worry about that, right? They're not competing with that, so to speak. But they better find $5 million, right? And by the way, making sure we're all set, right? This is not $20 million for the football team, although it's
that's for the budget for the athletic department.
$20 million for the football team, the basketball team, the baseball team. If you're up north, it's for the lacrosse team, it's for the swimming team, it's for the softball team. It's for everybody. So you got to figure out how that works, and that's why, Brian, if you want to become a general manager at one of these schools, that is a new job that did not exist a couple of years ago. That's going to end up paying pretty well. And so you do see, the last few years, Will Hall at Southern Miss, now Charles Huff, South Alabama, the Cajuns getting their NIL, in order, trying to make sure some of these players are taken care of. I will admit, I thought, Cajun softball would be better taken care of. But if you want something that's going on right about now, all right, go look what Texas Tech softball was in the last decade or so. They were not a very good softball program, all right? The Raging Cajuns were a much better softball program than Texas Tech. Texas Tech may very well win the College World Series, right? They got the girl from Stanford who's the best pitcher in the nation. I think she's making 7 figures, okay? They got a handful of girls from the Cajuns, all right? And they may be pitching or hitting against their former teammate, Sam Landry, from Oklahoma, all right? So I hope they're all cashing in because they deserve it. And I am man enough to say if I see these girls going at it, there may be some tears shed because I think that is cool as heck that these girls are finally getting a chance to play in the College World Series in Oklahoma City because they're all very, very good and they're former teammates. There's only a half a dozen of them that played for the Cajuns last year. But I thought there'd be some NIL money for Cajun softball because softball, I know, Brian, it's a little, you'd say passionate. On one side, it's a little cultish, all right? That these parents travel all over the country. And I thought there'd be a little bit of money for softball. I think the Cajuns are going to find that now based on what just happened over the last year or so. Probably can't compete with $1 million for somebody. Can't compete with what Oklahoma gave Sam Landry. And you may not be able to compete if LSU is doling out 6 figures to players. But you got to come up with something. And we'll see what happens. Walker Howard returns home, quarterback, former LSU and Ole Miss QB. Same high school, for those who care. And Brian, you probably know this. Same high school as Jack Besh. I think he played with Jack Besh at STM. Same high school as Tiger Besh. All right. Covered both Tiger and Jack. I think I missed Walker in high school. He may have started in 19 when I moved to Mobile, but covered both Tiger and Jack at STM. So both play basketball too under Danny Broussard, who's going to Louisiana Hall of Fame. Shout out, coach. But anyways, side note, it'll be interesting to see. And then you have ULM just got some student fees. Like JMU has a huge budget in terms of their athletic department. I'm talking about like their athletic department is like $60 million and ULM might be 15. I mean, they are night and day. I mean, we're not quite like the Yankees and the Rockies, but we're close. And so that's tough to compete in the same conference. when you're trying to compete for the same titles, forget about trying to compete for a national championship. You're just trying to compete for a Sun Belt title. And ULM had a real good season last year. They just missed out on a bowl game, got 5 wins. Bryant Vincent heading things in the right direction, but Mont Hardy was a fantastic running back, and you could see he wasn't going to stick around, and he ended up at Missouri, and hoping, that they get the money. That's all I'm hoping for, is when these guys do leave, I hope they get the money that they were promised, and I'm hoping they're not giving the 20% that these agents are claiming that they're getting. That's all I'm hoping for.
There you go. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the transfer portal. We often talk about the kids leaving, going to Missouri, but there are good players that come down. I want to pick Dave's brain, talk about some of the kids that have come down. Howard's obviously a great example. He's got a cannon for an arm and all that stuff. How does the league look this next year? Who are some of the transfers? All that on this crossover. Locked on Sunbelt and Locked on the Portal. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building actual wealth. Here's something to think about. How often do you try to figure out, what do I have saved? What do I have going on? You try to do it quickly, but I don't know if you have it like I do, but it's not all in one place. And that's why Monarch Money can help you out. Under one app, you can get everything organized. Plus, you can do that with your partner. You can put your money in one account with Monarch Money and make it work out better for you. A lot less stress with Monarch Money. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, Mr. Schultz, let's kind of talk about the elephant in the room. Obviously, kids leave. You touched on it a minute ago. Kid going to Missouri, kid going to North Carolina, et cetera, et cetera. But there are good players dropping down to the G5. Give me a couple of guys, and I don't care which schools that it is in the Sun Belt, a couple of kids that you're excited to see this year. Maybe it's part of the whole situation. Southern Miss, obviously, they brought some of the kids from Marshall.
Right,
but whichever guys you want. Right. Yeah, I mean, that's a wild situation. You talk about a team that's going to rise up. It's Southern Miss. Take the over. But anyway, give me a couple of kids that you like in the Sun Belt this year.
You do got the kid, and this may be NIL, but it may also be Matt Sluka talking about NIL, right? He bailed on UNLV because he didn't get NIL money, and he's going to go play for JMU, except he played for Bob Chesney at Holy Cross. So those two guys are reuniting, all right? So that's not only a little bit of cash probably, but it's these two guys know each other. And I'm a big believer these years, Brian. Same quarterback, same coach, look for big things, all right? It's not necessarily 2 years in a row, but these two guys know each other. So that's a good one. At Marshall, speaking of Marshall, someone who I saw play at Syracuse, sparingly, he was a backup, but Carlos Del Rio Wilson is in the quarterback room at Marshall. All right. And so that's a possibility. You do have possibilities at App State in terms of the quarterback room, because he brought in some big time players there. The backup quarterback from Iowa, I think JJ Cole was from Iowa. And I'm looking for the backup quarterback from LSU. No, I can't find his name.
Oh, you're talking about the kid who went to Syracuse. They lost him, if that's what you're talking about.
Oh, no, not Ricky Collins. Ricky Collins is going to be he could be the Syracuse quarterback.
Right.
That's different. No, one of the LSU quarterbacks did end up at App State.
Oh, really? I did not know.
Yeah. AJ Swan. There you go.
Oh, there you go. He was at Vandy at one point. I remember that. That's
Swan. Right. What was that?
Swan was at Vandy, then LSU.
Yes. There you go. So it could be there. So there is a bunch of talent. All right. And that's the thing. Some of these guys, it is about playing. All right. And here's the one thing, because I don't know about the whole jumping around bit. That's not for me. If you have to jump around once, I get it. Maybe twice if the coach leaves. But if you have, and you need a coach to be honest with you, and you never know what may happen, and this may happen more in baseball than in football, because you can kind of know if you're going to be a pro in football a little bit. The coach is going to know a little bit sooner than you will. All right. Brian, you could graduate law school and have some cash in the bank by the time you're done with your college education. Be a 25-year-old. If you go to junior college and that's not counting, and you get 5 years to finish in 4, you're 25 years old. No one says you have to you're not getting $1 million or whatever the case is. Obviously, you're good enough, you're going to go pro. But if all of a sudden you're just getting, $25,000 a year, NIL, right? And you're going to, now, I don't know if you can play sports and go to law school. That may be easier said than done. But some of these kids can take such advantage of what the current system is and just say, you know what? I'm going to use you like you're using me. And I think it would be great. That's what I want to see some of these kids actually do it, because I think they can. And all of a sudden, Brian, could you imagine putting a down payment on a home at 25? That's what some of these kids are going to be able to do.
Some of them will be able to buy a home, just pay cash.
Good. Yeah, could very well do that.
4-3 or something, $350,000 somewhere. Sure.
Yeah.
Possible.
Could very well do that. So there is some talent, very much so, coming in.
Who's your favorite for the league this year? If you had to pick one team.
So, I saw the over-unders, and I don't know what I am missing, because Arkansas State is 5.5 over win total, and I'm loving some Arkansas State. They're like a plus 2,100, and I got them as the favorite in the West. JMU, I think, is favored in the East, and they may be favored because Matt Sluka is a older, experienced guy. But Jalen Rayner has been with Butch Jones over at A-State for now. This is going to be his 3rd season, his 2nd full year there. And, it was going to be between him and Gio Lopez as the 2 top quarterbacks over there in the West. I should mention Texas State. We'll get to them in a second. But I think Arkansas State, I don't understand why we're poo-pooing Arkansas State. And this is coming off of FanDuel. So I don't understand that at all. I love me some Arkansas State right now. I think they are the favorite in the West, because we just don't know who is going to be the quarterbacks right now in some of these other places. You do have some experience in San Marcos with G.J. Kinney, Nate Yarnell, is that Pitt, Holden Grenier from Auburn, and I think there's one more. I mean, no, P.J. Hatter left, and there's one more, maybe the kid, Brad Jackson is the freshman, I think. So there is some experience over at Texas State, and we don't know what Walker Howard is like, Brian. Walker Howard, and we're probably only doing this because it's Louisiana, but he very well could be a Joe Burrow type of situation where he just hasn't played for 3 years, comes in and is okay in 1 year, and then the next year is really good, right? We remember what I covered Joe Burrow's first year at LSU, and I remember I was like, this guy's really cocky for being just an okay quarterback. He wasn't all that good, and then he even said, he's like, guys, I haven't played since I was in a high school senior. I've just been sitting on the bench. And you don't get that many opportunities as a college kid because it's 1 game a year or 1 game a week. And so it's like it took me like 6 weeks, 7 weeks to get going. And then they didn't play well against Bama, and then they probably lost the week after. And then they won that bowl game, and then they took off from there. So we'll see what Walker Howard is. I'm telling you, Brian, I'm going to call him Howard Walker many times this year. Kid's got name backwards. Always got to worry about guys that get the name backwards, or 2 last names or 2 first names. He's got his name backwards. But we'll see. He was a 5-star coming out. He was Mr. Everything. Went to LSU behind Jaden Daniels, and then he had to sit at behind Ole Miss, behind Jackson Dart. So got all the talent in the world. I think he's got some young receivers with the Cajuns. But, this is where we would see if his, if he's grown up not only physically, but mentally, right? The physicalness should be there, right? He's a 21, 22-year-old man. He's not 18 anymore, right? This would be heading into what would be his 4th year in college. So physically he should be there. We'll see if he can handle it mentally, because he just has not played, just like Joe Burrow, since his senior year in high school. At least not a heck of a lot.
When we come back, the big elephant in the room with all the stuff that's going on with the playoffs and with the G5. I mean, they get a team in the playoff. I want to ask Dave about whether or not he thinks there's any possible lawsuits still pending that could happen with all this house settlement and everything else that's going on. That is next here on this crossover, Locked on Sunbelt and Locked on the Portal. Dave, the days of consistency in college athletics are gone, and anything that happened yesterday might as well be 20 years ago. It seems like the landscape changes pretty, especially in my world, because I cover the portal. I mean, that is, you got Kirby crying, the $13 million a year guy crying over there. Don't get me started on that. But and he goes, "Oh, I know, millionaire complaining." Well, then shut up. But that's just me. Like, Kirby's a great coach, but stop complaining, okay? Yeah. You've got it easy over there. The point is, do you think there's any more chance that they're going to try to sue, like as they expand, to get a second G5, or how the criteria is used? Like, there's so many little things. Lawyers will find stuff. And,
sure.
And that I have a feeling something's coming. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, they could come. This would be my suggestion. All right, but you'd have to separate some schools. If the Big Ten and the SEC want to go and do their own thing, let them go do their own thing. Except I'd want the old Pac-12 teams to leave. Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington can go back. And we'll just have the regular Big Ten, and we'll have the SEC, and they can go have their own little championship. They can take their own little money, as long as they don't take Florida State and Clemson with them, all right?
Good luck on all that stuff, because those teams
I'm
are all
sure
going to
that's
be
what's going to
of it.
happen, because money talks. I get it. But if we can just keep what the SEC is now, what the Big Ten used to be a couple years ago, and they'll get the ratings, that's fine. The rest of us can go enjoy college sports, okay? Because we will, all right? Because we'll be on much more of a level than, right? Because we brought up Iowa State, all right? Cajuns went in and beat some guy named Brock Purdy a few years ago. Okay,
that's right.
They went in there and they beat him. All right. So they're much more closer to that level than being on a level with Ohio State and Michigan. Right. That's not, you can't compete with that on a year by year basis. And I know, the football teams want to get to the playoff. Really tough for them to win a college championship. Not impossible for them to win a baseball championship. Coastal Carolina won a championship before they got in the Sun Belt. They're going to Auburn to play in a super regional. Well, that sounds hard, Dave. Yeah. Well, they went into Baton Rouge and they beat LSU in the supers to get to Omaha when they won the championship. So that's not impossible either. And on a side note, they do have a possibility of going into Auburn and doing it. They have the number 2 pitching staff in the country. So it's a possibility. Whereas in football, Dino Babers a few years ago, he's like, we just don't have the depth to go play 3 times, maybe twice. And we don't probably have the depth to do that too. And that's when he's coaching Syracuse. Meanwhile, a Sun Belt team. I don't know if there's any suing coming. That my thing would be, let the 2 big boys go do what their thing is. We'll all watch. All right. But we'll go have fun over here, and we'll actually call it a national championship. You guys can just call it the Big 12. They'll just call it the Big 10 SEC championship, and you can go have your fun over there. Because, if Greg Sankey doesn't think that he's going to be remembered as the man who brought down college sports, I got another thing coming for him, because that's what he's going to be. That's what he's going to be remembered as. Because I appreciate his responsibility to the SEC, but somewhere along the way, he's got to be looking bigger picture, and he's not looking bigger picture. He's looking what's best for him right now, and he's kind of acting like Roger Goodell, what's only best for the NFL owners instead of what it may be best for the game. And we still haven't figured out guardrails for NIL and the transfer portal. I mean, somewhere along the way, we have to do that, right?
That's part of it. Yeah.
We'll get it, right? You just can't have free agency in the middle of bowl season. You can't have free agency in the middle, a kid who is coming off the bench for Houston on their way to the Final Four could be starting somewhere else in the middle of getting a 6-figure deal, meanwhile, it's trying to figure out if they can win a national championship. You can't do that, right? So, we got to figure this stuff out. And there's plenty of smart people who can figure it out. All right. But I don't think there's going to be any suing. There could be threats of lawsuits. That usually is when things get done. And the last thing we all actually want to do is get Congress involved, because you would think they have enough to do, although they tend not to be doing what they need to be doing. They tend to be doing just a showboat for whatever side they want to showboat for. Having said all that, I can't keep track of what the championship is. Brian, you can count on the Power Four screwing the G5, because they will take that opportunity to do it. However, the SEC and the Big Ten can manage to dominate the playoff, they will, and they will limit the other schools from getting it. All right. That's it. The reason that we have the automatic qualifiers from the ACC is to make sure the ACC gets in, whether the ACC deserves to get in or not. That's why the automatic qualifier is there. All right. That basically, not necessarily they deserve to get in, but that's why it's there.
Well, the TV networks want the fan bases with the biggest audience. I mean, I get it from their perspective, and that's how they can guarantee it. They can argue it from another perspective, but that's really what it is.
Yeah, but that's how the SEC got the ACC to agree to whatever the.
Oh, that's what I mean. They're the same boat.
We're going to guarantee you a spot, whereas the SEC maybe took something off of their table because, year in and year out, we could find 3 SEC teams that are better than the ACC champion.
Probably.
Most outside years, of maybe a Clemson, in any year. So.
This year's Clemson, I think, will be pretty
good. We'll see. You got Clemson against LSU to begin the season, right? Well, we're going to find out.
That'll be a great game. Yeah, but like last year in the ACC, there wasn't. I mean, Clemson was the best team at the end of the year, but it was just they all just killed each other. It was bad.
My Orange was one bad half from competing for that championship. That
Syracuse was pretty good.
One bad half, right? Was that against BC or Pitt? He threw a bunch of interceptions.
Yeah, he had 2 picks back to back that were pick sixes, and it gets Pitt.
Something like that. Yeah. There were also a couple of games. No one ever remembers that. There were a couple of games that they pulled some out of their backside. All right. Like they went into UNLV.
That's how you do it.
They pulled some games out of their backside that maybe they shouldn't have won. So no one remembers those as much as
Miami down 21.
Well, they beat Miami. That one they beat.
They still
that one
down 21 to nothing.
They beat up Miami in that one. That's a different one. I think they competed. They beat up Miami. That's different. They got lucky against UNLV. I thought.
It's wild. It's really wild. Dave, tell everybody where they can find your work, my friend.
Lockdown Sunbelt. We're getting ready. We got to stay up until we will be staying up until midnight on Monday with Southern Miss playing in the regional championship game against Miami, because if Southern Miss wins, they will host the Super Regional. So they lost the regional opener, and they got a shot at being the Super Regional host should they beat them. So you can find it on Lockdown Sunbelt. Schultz-cast, you can see it there on the Twitter X, and we're all on Spotify and Apple, so please check us out there on YouTube as well. Brian, I appreciate the time. So just to let you know, Brian, if you do come to, I'm now located in Kentucky, and so I know how much of an expert I am on the Sun Belt, but we may be expert on something else. Just all right, if you ever want to come up here and take a taste.
Okay, well that's good to know. You can find the Portal podcast all the same places that you can find Locked On Sun Belt Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and everywhere else you download your podcasts. Please like, rate, and review. Thank you once again. This has been the Portal Podcast and Locked On Sunbelt.